can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Baying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Hakos.
You want answers.
I want the truth.
You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your host on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
And hello, good evening, good afternoon, depending on what part of the world you're in, and we're glad to have you with us. I'm John Matthews, your host. You're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, and we are nationally acclaimed, globally syndicated. We're glad to be with you today. If you were tuning in yesterday to hear us live, I have to apologize. We had a little bit of a medical situation over here at my house. I was on hospital watch. My wife has been dealing with some issues with some water in her lungs, and she was feeling kind of under the weather yesterday. I thought I might have had to go down to the ER. And so anyway, we thought, I might have had to do something. So I just put an archive on yesterday, and we just got going. Okay. So anyway, glad to have you with us today. And I'm just sitting here. If I sound like I'm stuttering a little bit, we're trying to get our sound issue here resolved. We got one of our networks here not picking us up on audio, so I'm going to take a moment here. Just be patient with us here. See if we can get this thing resolved here. And I'm showing everything running okay on this end. So we just want to make sure. Okay, there we go. All right, we're all set up. Okay, thanks for being patient with us. And we start off this year again with yet another affiliate in which we're doing live. So we had to do some changes in our codecs and stuff on our board and everything, and just kind of ironing out some kinks. Sometimes you don't know till you actually go live what's going on. So glad to have you with us again. And again, if you were tuning in late, or if you tuned in yesterday, our apologies for not being on the air. We just had some issues here that we had to take care of at home. And normally Joe Hakos would be filling in for me. He would have taken the show, but he's under the weather. So he's in the last stages of recovering from a very bad viral infection in his lungs. And was first diagnosed as pneumonia. Turned out to be a viral infection. He says he checked in with us the other day, told me a couple more days, and he should be able to be, he'll be back on his feet. So all said and done. And here we sit out here in California experiencing something we have not had in a long time. Rain, 2 solid days of rain, and it looks like it may continue. So I'm wondering what our good Governor Jerry Brown, Governor Moonbeam, is going to dream up to try to convince us that we're still in a drought out here in California, so we can continue to steal our tax dollars and use it to compensate retired state workers, which is everything out here in California. That's what it revolves around. Bonds and raised taxes and fees and everything else so that we can keep all those pensions of all those retired state workers up to date. And they usually do it at the expense of the schools. It's always about the children. That's one thing about liberals. Everything is about the children. In fact, Barack Obama's speech yesterday, or news conference, or whatever the hell he's calling these things these days, about gun control, of course, was all about the children. And we're going to talk about that today to some degree, because I really want you to understand the ongoing issue or the ongoing motivation behind anything that Barack Obama does. And I'm going to single this out. Anything that Barack Obama does. A lot of people like to say, well, anything that the left does. It's not the left. When it comes to Barack Obama, it's about Barack Obama. It's not about the leftist movement. It's not about the leftist agenda. although that is the agenda that he has hitched his wagon to in order to establish his quote-unquote legacy and accomplish what he thinks is good for America and the world. But make no mistake about it, anything Obama does is because of Obama. And it's not because of children, it's not because of socioeconomic conditions, it's not because of the poverty in the country or the discrimination against minorities. It's none of that. All those are just means to an end for this self-appeasement aspect or quality or characteristic of this man, that he has to constantly seek self-approval. And you think, well, he's cool, he's laid back, he's mellow. He's none of those things. I guarantee you, inside of him, he's churning at 90 miles an hour, trying to just, what's the latest thing I can do? What's the latest thing I can, so that people just think I am just great. It's all about me. It's all about how great I am, how intelligent I am, how adept I am, how good I am, how compassionate I am, how effectual I am. That's all it is with this guy. It's all about who he is within his own mind. He is a legend in his own mind, and he wants everybody else to partake in that legend. So we're going to talk about that, because this gun control thing really brings some of these aspects to the surface, and you'll see what I'm saying when we get around to talking about that. And in fact, what we're going to do after the break here is I'm actually going to talk about his legacy, Obama's legacy, and how that ties into one with the current campaign. I call them the current snake oil campaign of gun control, and some of the other aspects. If you were listening to us last week, Donald Dix from Act for America had brought to our attention a blog on the State Department website about the great accomplishments of 2015 from Barack Obama. And I'm going to use that as my pivot point, or my foundation here when I get into talking about Obama's legacy. We're going to spend some time in that. Now, people will say to me, well, who cares about Barack Obama anymore? You know, he's lame duck. He's this. He's only got a year left in office. What's that? You know, what's the big deal? Why are you spending so much time on him? Shouldn't we be going after Hillary? Well, we should be going after Hillary, but you need to understand one of two things is going to happen with Hillary here. She's going to hitch her wagon to the Obama train in hopes of overcoming or circumventing her unpopularity and her untrustworthiness. And so we have to understand what Obama is doing in this last year he's going to be in office, and everything he's done up to this point, actually, so that you have an understanding of what she may be hitching her wagon to. And then there's another aspect of that, whether or not her hitching her wagon to the Obama train is going to hurt her or help her. See, there's things in this whole mix that I really want you to grasp and understand. And, of course, the gun control thing is just the latest thing, but we're going to tie some of this stuff all together. Then in the second hour, Don Dix will be coming back on from Act for America, and we're going to be talking about the Oregon standoff, what's going on up in Oregon, what that revolves around, and what it is really about. I personally don't believe that Ammon Bundy has a snowflake's chance in hell of getting the government to give him what he wants, which is possession of his land, free of any government intervention. That's not going to happen. The government's not going to give in to anything like this, you know. And I'll be honest with you. I would, if I was in the position of somebody like Barack Obama, I probably would stand my ground on that also, because that to me, you know, I just across the board do not believe in things like hostages and ransoms and everything else. And if you're going to try to say, okay, I'm going to hold this office hostage, or the people in it, which they're not doing. But my point being is that when you start to give in to people that make demands on you, then what happens is those demands just continue. And we've seen that. We've seen that with the Republican Party. There's a perfect example of what's happening. The Republican Party may had demands placed on them time and time again, and they just keep giving up, and look where we're at now. So we're going to go to our first break. When we come back, we'll get into today's festivities. Glad to have you with us on this rainy Wednesday out here in Southern California. We'll be right back. Stay with us. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing, and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
And we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives, and we're glad to have you with us. I want to give a shout out here to I think probably the most loyal guy we've got out there, Royalsworth out there, coming in from Canada, sitting in our chat room right now. And I just want to reiterate here, he was asking where Joe Hakos is at. Joe has been really under the weather lately. He's been out. This is the second week he's been out. He called me up last week and was complaining about having some hard time breathing and stuff. Went into ER, and they found water in his lungs and thought it was pneumonia. And he's been battling that, and he contacted me. In fact, he came on the show Monday for about a half an hour. He got up out of bed, and he's walking around a little bit. He says a couple more days, and he should be back. So our continued prayers for Joe and his family. He's just been really sick with breathing complications and due to some water in the lungs, and I guess they finally got that taken care of. So, Joe's very valuable to me on this show. He is more than valuable. I can't imagine continuing to do the show without him at this point in the game. So anyway, now let's get back to what I wanted to talk about here. And this is going to be a little lengthy. I may actually take the whole first hour here in the show to try to drive home this point that I want to make. And one of the things that I have been hearing from people, we talk about the latest activity coming out of the Obama, the continuing, never-ending Obama campaign machine. That's what his whole administration, his whole tenure in the White House has been about. It's one campaign after another. And I think you'll remember, I think on Monday, it had to be on Monday, I had shared with you a letter that I had received from the Obama campaign, Organizing for America. That is their main thrust group out there. And you'll remember in the beginning it was Organizing for Obama. And it was his campaign modus operation. It was his operation for his campaign when he was running for office and again for re-election, headed up by Jim Messina, who, by the way, is the guy who tried to take down Benjamin Netanyahu over in Israel. Actually went over there and ran the campaign against Netanyahu, with Barack Obama, of course, standing over here telling us how much he respected Netanyahu, and his campaign manager is over there trying to take the guy down. But somewhere along the line, I don't know exactly where it happened, but I've been getting these things for a long time. I call them the love letters, the Obama love letters from Organizing for America. And I received one the other day from Michelle Obama. Her name is on it. She's not the one actually typing these things. They've got different people. They got Michelle Obama. They've got Joe Biden, sends them. Barack sends them out himself. Some of their other campaign people send out these messages to you once in a while to tell you the latest transformational issue that they're trying to put across to the American public. Of course, always ending with, send us some money. So anyway, I got this thing from Michelle, and it has to do with Barack Obama's last State of the Union message, which is coming up later this month. She says in it, 26 years ago, I fell in love with Barack because of his compassion and his desire to make life better for other people. It's just who he is and who he tries to be every day as president. In that one statement right there lays out the foundational motivation for everything that Barack Obama does. Now, you would think, well, that's good. That's good that he has such compassion and a desire to make life better for other people. And it's just who he is. Now, this is a real basic lesson in liberal doublespeak. That when you say the right thing, and to the normal reasoning person, you hear those words and you think, okay, kudos. The guy's passionate. He wants to make life better for everybody. And all of us really do. Unless you're just some cynical, resentful hater out there, you do want things to be better for other people. Because when things are better for other people, normally that means things are better for you also. It makes sense. You reap what you sow. But when you understand who Barack Obama is, and you understand what motivates him, it's not his compassion and desire to make life better for other people. It's compassion and desire to make other people like him. That's what Barack Obama. That's what gets Barack Obama up every day, is that people will look at him and see him as what? A compassionate person who wants things better for other people. Now you say, well, even that is not a bad attribute. I mean, who doesn't want to think that people would, I hope when people think of me, they would think, this guy's compassionate about what he believes in and he wants life better for everybody in America. It's what gets me up every morning too. But there's a big difference here in the difference between somebody like a Barack Obama or somebody like myself is that I'm not doing it so that people will think me a better person. I'm doing it because of what I believe as a evangelical Christian conservative, that everybody has the same opportunity and everybody has the same responsibility, and everybody is accountable on the same level for their actions. My job as a pundit coming out here in the airways is to do what? Is to encourage you to make a better person of yourself. You make a better person of yourself, not somebody else making you a better person. You make a better person of yourself. You go out and build something. You go out and do something with your life. You go out and take responsibility for your actions. You go out and you're accountable for what you do. Understanding that all the things that we go through in life make us a better person. It strengthens our character. It teaches us right and wrong. So if the individual is focused on doing that and using all that God has given them to do these things, then collectively the world becomes a better place because the individuals are all responsible. They all understand who they are. They understand their purpose. They understand why they're here. And then so we thrive to fulfill that destiny and purpose. And in doing so, collectively, we're all better off. But see, in Barack Obama's mind, you can't do that. You do not have the capacity to better yourself if you were born a poor black child in the ghetto. You cannot be a better person if, as an evangelical Christian, you believe that birth begins at conception, or life begins at conception. That's not right. That's not right. Because it's above our pay grade, if I can use his phrase, to make that determination. If we make that determination, then we're being judgmental. And so, therefore, people like Barack Obama, who have special dispensation when it comes to spirituality and intellect, think that their job, their compassion for mankind is that mankind screws it all up, and so I'm here to fix it. Somebody like me compassion would be dictated or determined by, if you're screwing something up, you go about making the changes that you need to make in your life to make things better, not rely on somebody else to do it for you. You don't sit at it. If you're not happy with your socioeconomic position, then you do something to elevate yourself to that socioeconomic level that you want to be. You say, well, I can't do it because I'm a poor black child, or because I don't speak English, or because my country is still in the Stone Age. Then none of that stuff makes any difference. Take, for instance, just take a Muslim country like Iraq. Saddam Hussein, not a good guy, okay? But even he was able to elevate himself. Of course, he elevated himself as a dictator and a tyrant, but he was born into the same circumstances as anybody else. Adolf Hitler, for that matter, was born in the same circumstances as everybody else. A neglected child, poor family, had some issues, a broken family, the way his father treated him, everything else. Was a mama's boy, all that stuff. He didn't do a good thing, but he still did something. See, he rose above his circumstances to do something historical. I mean, certainly people like Adolf Hitler and Joseph Stalin and Mao Zedong and all these people are not good people, but none of them were born with a silver spoon in their mouth. So I'm just saying that to emphasize my point, which is each one of us as an individual has the ability to rise above our circumstances. Well, the compassion that drives Barack Obama is not that he wants you to have a better life. It's that he wants to give you the better life. Why? Because he needs to feel better about who he is, and he needs your acceptance. We can equate this to something like the homosexual movement. The homosexual movement is not about who you love. and whether or not you want to call yourself married to somebody that you've chosen to sleep with or build a life with, or whatever title or labeling or description you want to put on it. As a human being, have at it. Do whatever you want to do. But when the movement has progressed to what? It's not about accepting me it's not about me being able to do what I want to do. It's you having to accept what I'm doing. See, you can't oppose me because that hurts my self-esteem. I have to deal with self-esteem issues to have somebody tell me that homosexuality is wrong. That's how the homosexual activist thinks. I'm not saying every homosexual thinks that way. Because a lot of homosexuals just live their life. They're not really concerned about whether you like it or not. But the activists, those that are out there actively participating in activism and getting the Supreme Court to make some kind of obscene ruling on whether marriage is constitutional or not, legal marriage and all the other things, it isn't about that. If you truly just love somebody, you love them. And what's the old thing we used to hear back in the day? Well, marriage is just a piece of paper. Wasn't that what we had in the 60s revolution and the 70s? Marriage is just a piece of paper. If you really love somebody, what does a piece of paper matter? But it matters now because that piece of paper allows somebody who feels bad about what they're doing to silence those who may tell them there's a reason why you feel bad about what you're doing. You feel bad about it because you know it's wrong. And you just don't want to accept it. You want to reject natural law the way you were created to follow your own desires because of whatever circumstances in your life drove you that way. And now you want others to accept that under penalty of law, which is nothing more than sequestering opposition. I'm going to put you in a position that if you state anything bad about what I believe, then you can be held accountable under law and you'll pay a penalty for expressing that view. See, there's the difference. And that's what somebody like Barack Obama, that's what motivates him. He wants to rule and reign and regulate and make laws and have all this stuff happen so that nobody can tell him that he's wrong. That's what it's all about, because in his mind, it's the right thing to do. It's the right thing to do in his mind. Not in the mind of God, not in the mind of the American people, not in the mind of the majorities out there who disagree with him on many things. It's about what he thinks is right. And so everything revolves around that. So the legacy that Barack Obama has been trying to build since he first entered community organizing back in the 80s is to make a name for himself in order to alleviate any issues of low self-esteem he has because of his upbringing. A father he never knew, a mother who I guess was probably halfway decent mother from what I've heard, raised by his grandparents, a broken family situation, half black, half white, all the stigma that goes with that. I'm not saying he didn't have problems. I'm just saying that rather than dealing with those problems as an individual, he's decided to alleviate all the shortcomings in his life or all the feelings of low self-esteem through the collective ideal of making everybody accept him for who he is on his terms. And again, inherently, I don't think that's not wrong. But when it's carried out in a way that you begin to affect and interject who you are on other people, and you begin to obstruct and hinder and in some cases prosecute people for what they believe because it makes you feel bad, that's an issue. And that's the difference here. That's the big difference. So we're going to go to break. When we come back, I'm going to build on this because one of the things that we really need to understand about Barack Obama, and it's not about him not knowing the Constitution. It's not about him being dumb and ignorant. It's none of those things. It's about how he wants the world to see and accept him. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. Don't go. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the difference, don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you have been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardosa. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardosa Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosalive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosalive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Read something recently worth thinking about. It's the soldier, not the campus organizer, who's given us freedom to demonstrate. It's the soldier, not the reporter, who's given us freedom of the press. It's the soldier, not the poet, who's given us freedom of speech. It's the soldier who serves under the flag, who defends the protesters' right to burn the flag. Isn't it time now to demonstrate that we support our troops? Were it not for the brave, there'd be no land of the free.
Fred Thompson's message was brought to you by citizensunited.org.
We're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate coming to you live right now, coast to coast and around the world. And again, Joe Hakos should be back here. I'm hopefully by the end of the week. He told me last night a couple more days, and he thinks he's going to be able to sit at the keyboard for more than a half an hour. He came on the show Monday for about a half an hour and did well. So he's almost back to his old self. So just keep your prayers up for Joe and his family, and I'm sure he'll be back before this week is over. If not, I'm sure next week. So, okay. Let's get, let me touch on something here that's going on in the chat room here. Our friend Royalsworth up from Canada, and I know there's some noise out there. There's some noise out there right now about, actually I saw two things out there today about Donald Trump and the ongoing saga of trying to take this man down because Republican establishment do not see him as a Republican, and the Democrats see him as a threat. So apparently Trump is a couple of things going on. I saw an article here that was really funny. He was on, I don't know where, Samuel L. Jackson. I don't know where he was on. He was on one of these really, really late night shows. I mean, after Jimmy Kimmel and the Late Night Show and all, whatever those shows are. Those things are on after midnight. They're the only people still sitting up watching that kind of stuff are crackheads. And Samuel L. Jackson was sitting there, and I guess there's this big deal about whether Donald Trump ever played golf with Samuel L. Jackson or not. And apparently somewhere he was asked about it, and Trump just basically blew it off and said, no, he doesn't really know Jackson that well, and he thinks that he does too many commercials or something like that. Jackson is one of these guys out there and does those Capital One commercials for credit cards, stuff like that. What's in your wallet kind of thing. And so anyways, Jackson was on this talk show and talking about how he does, not only does he play golf with Trump, but Trump actually got him signed up in some country club that started just like a year ago or something. And for further proof, they've all played golf with Bill Clinton or something like that. So the news itself is irrelevant, except that the media is grabbing onto this as the gotcha moment. I heard one media thing, the gotcha moment. The gotcha moment that might take down Donald Trump. I'm telling you, if this is the best you guys can throw at this guy, you're really just throwing stuff against the wall to see what sticks. You're not going to take Donald Trump down with stupid things like this. Who cares if Donald Trump plays golf with you? I mean, we saw that was played out with John Boehner and Barack Obama out there stroking each other on a golf course, every other week, and it didn't do anything to hurt either one of them, really. I mean, so it's not going to be a big deal. But the other thing, of course, is that Donald Trump, apparently, according to the media, is questioning Ted Cruz's eligibility as president. Now, we do know that Alan Grayson down in Florida, a hothead, kind of like Al Franken on steroids kind of guy, has threatened to sue if Ted Cruz wins the Republican nomination based on this idea that Ted Cruz, because he was born in Canada, is not a U.S. citizen. Isn't it amazing how the liberals just all of a sudden turned on this issue? Barack Obama was whether he was born in Hawaii or not, his father was not a U.S. citizen. Everybody knows that. Everybody admits that. But it doesn't seem to be an issue with the left when we had this big birther movement came out about Barack Obama's eligibility. But because Ted Cruz was born in Canada and not the United States, he's not a U.S. citizen. John McCain, remember John McCain? Because he was born in Panama. Because his family was in the military and they were stationed in Panama. And John McCain was born, and they try to make a big deal about this. So this is the argument. This is how the left looks at things like immigration. You're in the country. It doesn't matter whether you're here legal or you're not. It doesn't matter if your parents are legal or not. You're here in the country, therefore you're legal. But if you actually have a right to citizenship, they're saying because because Ted Cruz had dual citizenship in Canada and the United States, he's not. Well, Barack Obama had dual citizenship in Indonesia. He had an Indonesian passport. He went to school in Indonesia. He had to travel to Indonesia. He had a passport to go around the world, live in other countries. He used that passport to apply for a college scholarship over here in the United States. But the whole point being is that Trump has said something about it, and he's been very ambiguous. It's a very ambiguous statement Well, I hope he figures it out. I hope things get figured out. It would be terrible if this thing went to a lawsuit. I don't want it. I don't think Cruz wants it. I don't think America wants it. This thing gets tied up in the courts. And the media is playing this as, Trump is going after Cruz on the eligibility issue, and this will take him down because people like us on talk radio will side with Cruz. We've already sided with Cruz. Trump is doing what Trump does. Cruz is doing what Cruz does. Real conservatives aren't concerned about this. We're concerned with the issues. My issues with Donald Trump is I don't like his methodology in how he would do what he says he wants to do. It's not a matter of whether we should ban all Muslims. I think we should ban anybody from entering the country right now, given the stakes of what's at stake right now. I think all visas should be put on hold until somebody figures out how to vet them. We did studies on this show, hours on this show, about how the vetting process is nothing more than handing people a questionnaire and asking them if they're terrorists. So if it was me, I don't care what country you're from. If I was in charge, I'd put a stop to all visas right now until we got some kind of system in place where we could tell the good guys from the bad guys. But Trump, he's saying that, and everybody's bad-mouthing him about it. Well, I'm not so sure I agree with how he would do it, but I do agree with the precept. I'm not so sure I agree with how Trump would build a wall at the border, but I agree with building a wall at the border. So it's not really about those like us, the real conservatives. We don't care what Donald Trump is saying. We're not worried about whether he's attacking or this, that, and the other. That's the way the man works. That's the way he campaigns. It's working for him. I look at Ted Cruz's campaign as one of the most perfect campaigns I've seen run in quite a while. Start out slow, he just builds slower and slower. He gains momentum. He's got a lot of money, hasn't had to use it yet. And I think he's sitting in a pretty good position. He's leading in Iowa. I understand he's pretty close in New Hampshire, South Carolina. He could pull it. He's just as viable as Donald Trump right now. So I just want that's my take on this. That's how I look at it. Is that it doesn't, to us real conservatives, what's going on the campaign trail between Trump and Cruz, it doesn't matter any more than it matters what's going on between Bush and Cruz, or Marco Rubio and Cruz, or Marco Rubio and Trump, or Bush and Trump. It doesn't make any difference. They're playing their campaign. They're playing what they've got. They're playing their hand. I'm more concerned with how are you going to do it? How are you going to solve it? Not who likes who and who doesn't like who, and who played golf with who, and who gave money to who, and who cares? That's the way liberals do things. That's the way liberals elect people. Popularity contest. Not about qualifications, about popularity contest. Which brings me back to what I started talking about, and that is Barack Obama, the homecoming king. That's really what got this guy elected. He came across as cool, kind of like got the mojo working and everything else, a clean slate. Couldn't really pin too much on him, even though there was a lot to pin on him. The media didn't go after him, gave him a pass on a lot of stuff. We started vetting this guy back in 2007 when he announced his candidacy for the first run of the president. In fact, I had started radio in December 2007, and it was right after Barack Obama had made the announcement that he wasn't ready to run for president. But I had watched his speech at the 2004 DNC convention, and I thought, okay, this is as they pinned him right there, labeled him right there, an up-and-coming star, rising star. So I started reading up on the guy then. I knew by the time 2008 came exactly who this guy was and who he is and who he will continue to be. He is a community organizer. First and foremost, above everything else, he's not a politician. He certainly isn't a good president. He's not any of those things. He is a community organizer. The letter I was reading you earlier from Michelle Obama, I only got one line of it out there and started, off on my angry white man rant. But the second line of this letter, Michelle refers to Barack. He has only 12 months left as your president, and I know he's anxious to make the most of every opportunity to make change. And, John, you'd better believe that you being right there alongside him, I guess they assume I'm a liberal, Doing the hard work of organizing matters to him. See, right there is telling you everything you need to know about Barack Obama, who he is and why he does what he does. He is an organizer. He wants to change things, and he does it out of his compassion, but his compassion is that we're too ignorant and stupid to realize that the American dream is not what it should be, has never been what it should be. Really, in the eyes of Barack Obama, what are Americans? We are occupiers that came over here and stole America from the Indians and the Mexicans. That's what that's all about. So, anyway, coming back again to this legacy idea. I got to go to another break here. When we come back, I'm going to talk about this in detail because you really need to understand this because the popularity issue is how the 2016 campaign is going to be run for Hillary Clinton. See, I'm not talking just about Barack Obama. There's another bigger thing here. And it has to do with how Barack Obama is going to help Hillary Clinton because he's the cool guy in the room. Stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be right back. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. Well, we're back. And you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. And I want to give a shout out here to those out there in our chat room. As I said, we put a chat room on this site, and I've been playing around with it for a while, just because it's hard for me to run the show and do the chat at the same time. And when Joe is here, it's a little bit easier. But I check the chat room during the breaks, and so hang in there. If I don't respond, and I normally just respond on the air. Very, very seldom will I take time to type stuff out while I'm running the show here. But I will I will do my best to answer as soon as I check the room and see what's out there and everything else. You can go to the chat room by simply going to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. Up at the top, you just see the navigation bar that says chat room. Go there and sign in. Just got to sign your name in there, and you can come in and talk. Okay, now, let's see where we're at here. We're talking about Barack Obama's legacy. And that is, I've had people say to me, why are you spending so much time talking about Barack Obama? He's yesterday's news. No, he's not yesterday's news. He's today's news because he's still setting things up. He's still organizing. He's still dividing for the purpose of conquering. And he's been very effective at what he does. People think that Barack Obama doesn't know what he's doing. He knows exactly what he's doing. Oh, he's stupid. He doesn't understand he understands the Constitution. Believe me, he does. He just doesn't care for it. He doesn't like the limitations that the Constitution puts on him in the executive branch. So he's doing everything he can to circumvent it. And his main basic strategy has been, I issue an executive order on something, and you do something to stop me. And we know the Republican Party won't do that to stop him. So he just, hey, you guys have given me an inch, I'm going to take a mile. And that's the strategy here. Don't think for 1 minute this guy is inept, incapable, stupid, or anything else. He is a Marxist/socialist organizer. Was raised under the rules of Saul Alinsky, mentored at the Midwest Academy by some of the most profound socialist minds, hand-chosen by people like Jan Schakowsky, who sits in the House of Representatives today, or Senate, I don't forget which one. Yeah, Senate. She's a senator from Chicago, hand-picked to come into the Senate at the state legislative level and then integrate into the U.S. Senate and now president. This guy has been raised for this stuff. He has been mentored. He has been groomed for this. And so don't sell him short. Now, whether he's a good man or not, that's a completely different discussion. I do not think of him as a good man. I think of him as somebody who's very compassionate about what he believes in, but also very wrong. And so, anyway, as I said, the reason why it's so important is to pay attention to what Barack Obama is doing, especially in this last year, trying to close down his agenda or close up his agenda, bring all those loose ends in his fundamental transformation of the United States of America. It's for the purpose of laying the foundation for Hillary Clinton or whoever ends up the Democrat nominee. I'm still not sold on the idea she's a slam dunk. And so what you have to understand is that everything that he's doing is for that purpose. Because this man has no intention of ceasing his political or his organizational abilities or his desires once he leaves the White House. He's going to do one of two things. I understand he plans on staying in D.C. Now, I don't know if a guy can run for the Senate and then become president and then run for the Senate again. I don't know if there's rules about that or not. But I would guess if there isn't, he might try to get back into the Senate somehow. Although Washington, D.C. doesn't have senators. You know, or maybe it would require him keeping a home in Chicago so he could come back that way. I don't know. Or he's been grooming for the ultimate job, which is head of the UN. Because it seems like everything that Barack Obama does is focused and centered around what's going on in the international community. That's my personal speculation. He wants to be the head honcho at the UN because he can then bring fundamental transformation to the world rather than just the United States. And he's got the United States as his model. Look how much I changed the United States. Just think of what I could do on a global scale in eliminating poverty and inequality and all the other things. You know, this guy has got the mindset. I'm going to pick my words carefully here. He has the mindset of an antichrist. He's not the antichrist. He's got the mindset of an antichrist. He's got the spiritual makeup of an antichrist. The Bible tells us there are many antichrists. Barack Obama is just the most evident right now. It's not to say there aren't others, and it's not to say that he's the best. He's just the one that's in the main, I guess when you say he's the one in front of the main teleprompter right now. So we have to pay attention to what he's doing. Now, Barack Obama, above all things, understands the Constitution. Don't doubt that for 1 minute. He just doesn't care about the Constitution. He couldn't care less about the constitutional limitations adapted when this founding document of ours was written. He doesn't care about working with Congress. How many times have we heard him say, I'll work with anybody in Congress that wants to work with me? Doublespeak, liberal doublespeak, meaning I'll work with anybody that will give me what I want. I'll call anybody my friend. He called John Boehner a friend. Why is that? Because Boehner gave him everything he wanted. Boehner was constantly caving into him. Boehner would get up to, we're not going to stand for this. This is not small government. This is what we're going to do. And then the next day, we can't do anything. We don't have the power. We don't have the votes. We'll just have to we don't want to be called racist. We don't want to be called haters. So make no mistake about it. The man understands the Constitution. He just doesn't care about its limitations. He's going to do what he can do because Congress has let him do what he wants to do. So he's not interested in working with Congress. He's not interested in following the limitations set on him by the Constitution. He is interested in one thing, fundamentally transforming the United States of America. Simple and plain. Now, what does all this have to do? I'm going to share an article with you real quick here. This is published today at CNS News by Brent Boswell, the guy that heads up the CNS News organization over there. Burying Negative Polls is the name of the article. And he's talking about on PBS on January 1st, liberal pundit Mark Shields brought some very bad news for the left. This is on PBS. The NBC News Wall Street Journal poll, they ran a poll, NBC News Wall Street Journal poll found 73% of the people in their poll said that they want the next president to take a different approach than the one currently being followed by President Barack Obama. 73% of this poll conducted by the NBC News Wall Street Journal said that 73% of Americans don't think that Obama has taken the country in the right direction and want to see somebody take a different direction. Now, why do you think people like Donald Trump and Ted Cruz are so popular? Because they want to take the country in a different direction. We can argue and debate about methodology all we want. But at this point, it's simple. It's plain. Why is Trump not being taken out? Because of his audacious statements and his personal attacks and everything else? Because people aren't paying attention to that. What people are hearing is, we're going to go a different way. We're going to build a wall. We're going to shut off the inflow of Muslims. We're going to get the jobs back. We're going to null and void all these agreements that Barack Obama made with our enemies, and we're going to support our friends. That's why they're still popular. That's why you can't take Trump down right now. This poll is saying 73% of the people in this country want something different. So the reason I'm bringing that up is because Brent Boswell then goes on to say, well, how did the media respond to this? NBC, who conducted the poll, what did they do with it? They buried it. They put it on a Meet the Press website, one of those 3,000 character links on the Meet the Press website. So, something that nobody ever reads. So what did they do? They picked the negative side of it and brought that to the attention of the American people. Nightly News, NBC Nightly News anchor Lester Holt promoted brand new results that show that 57% of America opposed Donald Trump's notion to ban Muslims. See, they took the things out of there that would fit their narrative. And this is my point before we go to the break here. This is all about controlling the narrative. The reason Donald Trump is having the success he's having is because he is controlling his narrative. It's not about anything else right now. Barack Obama's legacy depends on his narrative, on maintaining the narrative that the left has out there, that they have a better way, and that's through collectivism. Donald Trump is countering that, and he's being successful at it because they can't neutralize what he's saying. They can't neutralize what he's saying because a vast majority of people in the country relate to what Trump is saying and do not relate to what Barack Obama is saying. And I'm going to touch on this again when we come back at the break here. We're at the top of the hour. It's time for the Edwards Notebook. We'll be right back. Stay with us.
Once again, the Republicans bend over for President Obama's awful agenda. Hello, I'm Ron Edwards. On today's page from the Edwards Notebook, despite the need for wasteful government spending to be curtailed, Congress, under the leadership of progressive Republican Speaker of the House, Paul Ryan, has approved most of Obama's policies that are either a waste or downright harmful morally, ethically, or financially. Speaker Ryan and company pleased Obama with no funding cuts in the administration's massive budget to fund the corruption of climate change. Ryan and company have voted to turn their back on the federal government's responsibility of protecting us from enemies both foreign and domestic by allowing Obama's no restrictions on Syrian Muslim refugees, while at the same time looking the other way while Obama prevents Christian refugees from entering or staying in our republic, which was founded upon Christian principles. There is no repeal of Obamacare's medical device tax for 2 years, no funding cuts or IRS audit for abortion mill giant Planned Parenthood. Republicans also failed to limit a wide variety of costly clean energy policies. Such actions by the Republicans who said, "Vote for us," proves what Will Rogers said long ago. There's not a dime's worth of difference between Democrats and Republicans. I'm Ron Edwards.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
When our water heater broke down last month, it was a nightmare. It took 5 hours for the plumber to show up, and he charged us a couple of $100 just to come out. Then it cost another $1,800 to put in the new water heater. By the time it was all said and done, I felt like I'd been taken. But what else could I do?
The smartest thing you can do is get a home warranty from American Residential Warranty. Their home warranties pay to repair or replace all your major appliances when they break, and they will break, and at the worst possible time. Call American Residential Warranty right now for free information on home warranties starting at just pennies a day. Don't wait for your refrigerator to stop running or your ceiling fans to stop turning. Call American Residential Warranty right now. Ask how you can save up to 50% on washer and dryer coverage. Just call 1-800-790-5960. That's 1-800-790-5960. Again, 1-800-790-5960. Call now.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right. General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Hey, all you can do is just tell the truth and trust in the American people that over time they're going to know what the truth is.
Yes, it is time for the truth. Right here, right now. This is the Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives. With your host, John Matthews.
The latter-day prophet.
Vying against the hypocrisies of our time.
And Joe Akos.
You want answers. I want the truth. You can't handle the truth.
The Conservative Syndicate is comprised of some of the most informed pundits and activists available today. Together, we seek to tear down the imaginary wall, a separation between church and state through education, information, and engagement on the religion of politics and the politics of religion. And now, your hosts on the globally syndicated Conservative Syndicate, John Matthews and Joe Hakos.
Okay, hey, we are back. Hour 2 here of the Conservative Syndicate, coming to you live, coast to coast and around the world. Globally syndicated, nationally acclaimed, the Conservative Syndicate. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with my co-host, Joe Hakos, who should be back next week, maybe later on this week. I'm hoping, we're shooting for Friday. We might see him on Friday. If not, I'm sure by next week he'll be back. Okay, I do want to just make a quick comment, those of you in the chat room. Thank you for coming in and talking and keeping the dialogue going. I'll join you again here at the next break here. And coming up this hour, right after our next set of commercials here, this is our short segment. I think we run about 6-7 minutes in this segment. Donald Dix from Act for America will be back, and we're going to be talking to some degree about what's going on up in Oregon. There's a lot of things that we can wean out of that situation up there. Of course, I do not believe that Ammon Bundy and the people up there right now are going to get what they want from the government, but that's not the issue here. It brings to surface some real constitutional issues in terms of the federal government coming into states and doing just whatever the hell they want, which has happened over the last 4 or 5 decades in particular because the states have been accepting federal money for everything. And that's one of the big issues here. That's why we have these types of things going on. If the states were true to what the Constitution set up in terms of the balance of authority, we wouldn't be having these debates. We wouldn't have a Barack Obama in the White House. We wouldn't have had a Bill Clinton in the White House. We wouldn't have had a Jimmy Carter or even a Franklin Roosevelt, for that matter, if the states had stayed true to what the Constitution established in terms of power and authority. I want to make one last comment here for today on the Barack Obama situation I was talking about the fact that the PBS came out with a poll. The NBC News Wall Street Journal poll showed that 73% of Americans do not like the direction that the country has gone under the tenure of Barack Obama. But we were telling you how they buried that number into the poll, or back into the 3,000 character links back on the Meet the Press website. Instead, what they bring to the forefront in mainstream media is things like nightly news anchor Lester Holt promoting brand new results that this NBC Wall Street Journal poll says that 57% of America opposed Donald Trump's notion to ban Muslim immigration in America. Now, I doubt that number is true, but the point being is that the numbers that they pull out that support the narrative, which is everything right now, it's not qualifications, it's not effectiveness in governing, it's the narrative. The people that control the narrative have been left for quite a while now, and that's why everything is in such disarray. Because when somebody from the right stands up and says something, they're slammed, ostracized, labeled, smeared, whatever has to happen to take them down. Peter Alexander reported that his NBC News Wall Street Journal, meaning NBC, they said that shows that 6 in 10 Americans oppose Trump's proposal banning Muslims. But Republicans are divided 42% in favor, 36% against. So the majority, I guess, would be the 6 in 10. The majority of the people there would be Democrats. And Meet the Press and Nightly News, they touted NBC's poll showing Trump on top of the GOP race with 27% to Ted Cruz's 22%. But still no mention of Barack Obama's unpopularity. And then on Today, the Today Show, Peter Alexander repeated the Trump-Cruz findings, saying, adding, there are some new numbers from our NBC News Wall Street Journal poll out this morning that show Hillary Clinton would trounce Donald Trump in a head-to-head matchup. Now, here's where it gets, this is my whole point here. This is the point I wanted to make about this whole thing. Barack Obama's popularity stands at a favorable measure. He's somewhere around 57 to 60%, depending on what polls you go to, in terms of favorability, meaning popularity. People like him. They think he's cool. They think he's mojo. He's Austin Powers in blackface, that kind of thing, okay? He's got it. He is the guy, okay? But he has very low job approval numbers, which would fit the poll that we just talked about here. 73% of the country says we're going in the wrong direction. He's got less than 45%, 43%, 40% in some polls. His job approval ratings are in the toilet. So what they have to do is they have to build on the popularity of Barack Obama. And the reason they really have to do that is because Hillary Clinton is everything Barack Obama is not. She's not cool. She's not popular. She's not liked. And so the idea here is to build on Barack Obama's popularity. And to do that, you've got to build up his legacy. And his legacy is manufactured as to what the leftists call accomplishments. And when Don comes on the show here, we're going to talk about that because he's the one who brought this article up to me last week. And we didn't get a chance to cover all of it, but we're going to talk about it a little bit more when he comes on here right after the break. So what you've got here is the fact that should Hillary Clinton hitch her wagon to the Obama wagon and start touting his policies with a job favorability rating of 43% or less, and polls that show 73% of the country think we're going in the wrong direction, how much of a chance do you think she has to stand up against somebody like a Donald Trump, Ted Cruz, or even somebody like a Ben Carson, although I think he's on his way out? Even a Marco Rubio, for that matter. You know, if the push comes to shove and Marco Rubio somehow ends up there, whether it be through brokered convention or whatever, however the Republicans could pull something like that off, any one of those people standing up to Hillary Clinton and offering the opposite side of what to do, the opposite approach, I think would trounce Hillary Clinton in a heartbeat. Now, somebody like Ted Cruz would just rip her apart with facts and figures. This man knows everything. He's able to present. He's able to debate. He's able to articulate. Marco Rubio could tear her apart because he's calm and cool. Trump could just rip her apart because she's a bitch. So, you know, all those things can work. So what I'm getting at is the media is trying to play this up as something other than what it is. Building on Barack Obama's popularity, they hope it will bring Hillary Clinton or whoever the Democrat nominee ends up being into a place of, once again, just electing the prom queen. And that's her answer, too. How would you be different to Barack Obama, Hillary? Well, I'm a woman. That's her answer. So we got to go to break. When we come back, Don Dix should be online with us here in just a moment here, and we'll continue our discussion here. So stay with us right here at the Conservative Syndicate. We'll be back in just a moment.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Prices are for base buildings only. May not be available in some areas. Attention business owners, do you want a stimulus package that really works? Before you spend thousands of dollars more than you should on your next building project, listen to this. General Steel has a stimulus package designed to help you save as much as half the cost of conventional construction on your next building. As much as half. That's right, General Steel can save you thousands of dollars with a pre-engineered steel building designed for your business or church. How about a 50 by 100 foot building for under $30,000? So don't pay thousands more than you should without calling General Steel first and save as much as half the cost and time of conventional construction. With the projected demand for steel in Japan and China, prices may be skyrocketing.
877-927-3360. 877-927-3360. 877-927-3360.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed-rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Life line right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Life line right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
And we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I want to remind everybody you can visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and you can pick up the archive of this show, any of our archives. You can find out anything you want to know about any of our people, any of our panel members, and just go to theconservativesyndicate.net. And right now I'm going to bring on Don Dix from Act for America doing his weekly segment with us this week. He was with me last week also. And Don, you came in at exactly the perfect time. It's just perfect timing tonight. How are you doing tonight?
Doing fine, John. How are you? And Happy New Year.
Yeah, Happy New Year to you also. And we are going to be talking what I started talking about just before you. Well, actually, I've been talking about it all night, pretty much. But I wanted to bring you in on this because you're the one that kind of put it in motion last week. You came in with an article or a blog that was written by the State Department, and you were how it was highlighting or showcasing, quote unquote, Barack Obama's accomplishments in 2015. And I looked at the article over the weekend, and I read it, and I went through it, and then lo and behold, some other things popped up. For instance, Brent Boswell published something today about an NBC Wall Street Journal poll that says that 73% of Americans do not approve of the way that the direction Obama has taken the country, and they want something different, which would attribute or account for the popularity of somebody like Donald Trump. And so anyway, what I was getting at is how everything in the Obama administration has centered around one thing, and that is Barack Obama. It's not about the Constitution, because Barack Obama doesn't care about the Constitution. It's not about working with Congress because he doesn't care to work with Congress. He wants his agenda because, one, he thinks it's the right thing to do, and I guess it makes him feel good about who he is as a person. Now, saying all that, this list of things, I thought maybe you would comment on it, and we'll just kind of have an exchange here on some of these things that the administration is touting as success for Barack Obama, because I think this is going to be the premise on which Hillary Clinton is going to try to run. She's going to, I think, to her detriment, I think she's going to hitch a wagon to Obama. And I think if the poll numbers are correct, that the population does not like what Barack Obama has done, then anybody that runs against Hillary Clinton should be able to just wax her, should be able to kick her butt real easy. So is there any one of these that you wanted to start out with?
Well, there's so many here that to focus on. I think one of the things that's kind of in my wheelhouse that got this thing to my attention, of course, was the last one on the list, which is bringing peace and security to Syria, which is just laughable on the face of it. And anybody that's followed what's gone on in the Middle East has got to scratch their heads about how in the world this particular one made it on the list. I don't understand how you can tout as an accomplishment bringing peace and security to Syria as a 2015 success. And there's a picture of John Kerry. There's his remarks at the United Nations Security Council, a video of that there. How in the world can you say that you've brought peace and security to Syria when you backed away from your quote unquote red line in the sand about chemical weapons? You let Russia come in and basically run the show there. It's laughable. Peace in Syria. Give me a break. If anything, this was the seed that or the fertilizer, I should say, that enabled the growth of the Islamic State. the whole civil war in Syria is the thing that's kind of scraped all that open. And of course, there's a nexus between what went on in Syria and, of course, Benghazi, because you had the essentially the arms running that out of Libya into Syria. So that's not something that brings peace and security to Syria. Dropping arms in the middle of that hotbed of Islamic radicalism. And so I don't even know. I mean, on the face of it, that should be a head scratcher for anybody that looks at this list.
Yeah, I agree. I think anybody that has the IQ of seaweed can look at the actual circumstances and see that this is anything. But here's my point. As I pored over this thing over the weekend and I tried to digest it the best I could. Here's my thing. When I read stuff like this, and people like you and I, people that have a sense of reasoning that can look at facts, we can look at empirical evidence, and we can say, well, what's being said doesn't match with what we're seeing being done. And you say, okay, so the contention is wrong. It could be it's 180 degrees out. If anything, Barack Obama has irritated the situation over in the Middle East beyond, I think, to some degree, beyond repair. I don't know we'll ever be able to fix this thing now. But it has to do with the idea that this thing is being presented not to people like you and I, who are going to be able to look at it and just say, oh, this is laughable. It's some way of trying to keep the base in line in spite of everything that else is going out there, because I have just come to believe that liberals, for the most part, just do not know how to process. They don't know how to process information in a logical way. They process information as being fed to them in a way that they say, oh, that's what it is. You take Obamacare. I always like using this example because everything is indicating that this is well into a death spiral. And yet the idea that the media can come out and say, oh, well, we got 10 million people. That were previously uninsured, insured. And nobody looks at it and says, well, I thought this was supposed to cover 40 million people. And how many of those 10 million people actually had plans before Obamacare and have been forced into Obamacare? Or how many people are in Obamacare because of the expansion of Medicaid? It has nothing to do with Obamacare. It's just it's being hurdled, it's being umbrellaed underneath all that. So we look at it and we look at the facts and we say, well, the contention that Obamacare is successful is not right. But the base believes it because the base wants to believe it. It's that we need to believe it because what else is left? We have to think for ourselves. God help us. And so when I look at something like this, bringing peace and security to Syria, I'm like, this is what it basically is Obama talking to his base, the dumbed down, misinformed, underinformed, saying, hey, we got it under control. And they go, oh, sigh of relief. Yeah, okay, the guy's got it. He's got it done. And this allows now Hillary Clinton to go out there and just parrot all these points and say, yeah, well, we're just going to continue what Barack Obama's doing because it's been so damn successful. And the base goes, okay. See, I think the big problem we're going to have in this election, or the Democrats are going to have in this election, is voter turnout. I think their voter turnout is going to be well below the historical proportion. Even though they got dead people voting for them, I don't think it's going to be enough. So there
is a underwhelming level of enthusiasm on the left right now. And yes, I mean, when you look at who's drawing crowds, of course, Trump on the right, Trump's drawing the crowds. On the left, Bernie Sanders is drawing the crowds. So you've got people you got Bernie Sanders, a committed socialist that's getting, the crowds out. Hillary, they have to remove seats in order to make her venues look full.
Right.
But yeah, I mean, they're trying to make, they're trying to spin gold yarn out of straw. Because when you look at this list, there's two other themes that really stick out. The first is that almost half the list involves the United Nations. And so anybody that really is concerned about the Constitution, America's sovereignty, you got to scratch your head and wonder, why is the UN at the center of all of these, quote unquote, accomplishments on the part of the State Department? And, really now it's John Kerry that's the head of it, but he obviously inherited the messes that were left over from Hillary Clinton's tenure there. The other thing that sticks out of this is that a number of these so-called accomplishments are simply the result of having meetings. So another one of my top ones here is winning the fight against violent extremists. So, first of all, ask your question, are we winning the fight against violent extremists? Well, ISIL or ISIS or the Islamic State is at the center of this particular entry into their top 2015 accomplishments. And, they have the hashtag here, which is also funny, 2015 in 5 words. Seriously, the accomplishment about winning the fight against violent extremists, the centerpiece of this so-called win is simply a meeting. The February White House hosted the Summit on Countering Violent Extremism. So now an accomplishment is hosting a meeting. That's now considered to be a success. There's no way in the world. You have people in the Obama administration that have said, in no way, shape, or form do we have an agenda for dealing with this that is a success. Every time Obama talks about ISIS and winning the fight against ISIS, his administration, people in the pen, they come out and say, no, we're not. Whether it's, ISIS is under control, no, it's not. We have an agenda for dealing with ISIS. No, we don't have a plan. So this is another entry in their list of wins. That and what's even more laughable, of course, is that we have the second largest terror attack in the United States since 9/11 in December. Clearly, and Paris, of course, a month before that. We are not winning the fight against violent extremism. If anything, we're losing it, because what was interesting is we actually interviewed earlier John Sullivan, who was the writer and director of 2016, which was the meeting, the documentary, that one of the highest grossing documentaries in the history of documentaries that came out in 2012. As you might remember, one of the predictions that they had in that movie was what they called the United States of Islam, which, as a result of the Arab Spring, which was Hillary's, another one of Hillary's accomplishments, they had that front and center in 2016. And when I was talking to John about the predictions from 2016 that came true, that was the very first prediction. And indeed, they called it. The ISIS, which is the caliphate, which is their term for the United States of Islam, was born in 2014. It literally came to fruition. So you have a goal, you have a list of predictions in the movie 2016 that came true in 2014, and then closing the loop on it back to this list, you have the administration saying that they're winning the fight against violent extremists. Again, another head scratcher. How in the world can they pit this as an accomplishment when the entire area, and now of course you have Saudi Arabia and Iran that have severed diplomatic relations over the execution of a Shiite Islamic cleric, which of course, you have Iran, which is Shia. You have Saudi Arabia, which is largely a Sunni-based theology. So that relationship is now fractured. Everything about the Middle East and that whole area continues to devolve into chaos, and yet they say we're winning the fight.
Yeah. Okay, look, we got to go to a break here first, but you brought up a couple things here. I want to comment after we get back from the break about this, the thing about the United Nations. It's something I mentioned earlier in the show, and I want to pitch this at you and get your take on it. Plus, I want to also touch on this summit itself, the White House Summit on Countering Violent Extremism. This was brought together shortly after the Ferguson riots. And so there's a mix here between bringing international people and domestic officials together to try to figure out how to counter violent extremism. So it plays into my narrative in terms of the UN and the relationship that Barack Obama has with them. So we'll talk about that when we get back. We've got Don Dix from Act for America with us. We'll be back in just a moment, guys. Right now, it's time for Moments of Madness. Hey, on Moments of Madness. An article posted at Bloomberg by Jonathan Bernstein entitled "The Trump Effect Begins to Hit Congress" illustrates very well that what is at stake in the upcoming 2016 general election is not about the GOP's concern about who they will oppose in the Oval Office, but whether or not they have a majority that allows them to protect their individual posts. Bernstein very accurately points out that whether or not Trump magically transforms into the hybrid conservative moderate formerly known as a rhino, the GOP still stands to lose in those demographics they are working so hard to win over through their continual compromise with Obama's agenda to fundamentally transform the United States of America due to Trump's unwillingness to tone his rhetoric and instead fall in line behind the bonarized yes men that rule today's establishment. But that's not all. While the GOP tries their best to convey, all they need to return America to the GOP platform they themselves have dismantled plank by plank is control of the executive branch. It is quite obvious, even if a real conservative like Ted Cruz, himself a member of their most sought-after demographic, should be the last candidate standing, they fear losing the stability that defines the establishment they have worked decades to create in the House and Senate. Here's the madness. The bottom line is, it is not the future of America that is at stake. It's their jobs. The likes of Donald Trump or Ted Cruz in the White House threaten those jobs. Winning to today's GOP elite is more about the individual security that comes from holding a position that equates intelligence and skill with esteem and pay while exhibiting no qualifications for the job whatsoever. We know this because the current list of establishment elites seeking the White House remain at the bottom of the pond with popularity numbers between 0 and 3%. Yet they are still the ones the media flock to and the left exhorts when upper-tier candidates like Trump or Cruz comment on the weather in hope of rising from the bottom to the top of the cesspool they thrive in. When the best you can do is whine about today's political landscape while at the same time lamenting that which once was, who cares what John Kasich thinks about legislative reform? When the best you can refer to is a past that fades like a Clinton scandal, who cares if Jeb Bush tells you he can fix what he and his family helped break? When you do not even have a number that registers on the scale, who cares what Lindsey Graham believes is good foreign policy? In fact, who cares what Graham thinks about anything except maybe his choice of wine? It remains to be seen whether or not the GOP knocks over the chessboard by forcing a brokered convention next year in hope of getting their choice on the ballot, because they know they are about to lose to the new kid in the class. But one thing is certain. Regardless of how the rules are changed, everyone knows who the brats are, and everyone knows class is about to be dismissed. Maybe, just maybe then, these elites can take the position they are most qualified for, janitor sweeping the floors of the halls of Congress. This is John Matthews for Moments of Madness. You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Limited time offer, 24-month commitment and credit qualification require cancellation fee, auto pay, and paperless billing and other restrictions apply. If you can't see the difference, why pay the difference? Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Only Dish brings you the best in entertainment for less than $20 a month. Cut the cable and don't get directed. Switch to Dish because at just $19.99, Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. It's so simple. The same channels cost less with Dish. So since you can't see the the difference. Don't pay the difference. Switch to Dish for the best deal in entertainment. Get premium movie channels free for 3 months, starting at just $19.99. Dish saves you every time you turn on the TV. Call now to save with Dish. Dial 1-800-600-1645. That's 1-800-600-1645. The same channels for less than $20 a month. Dish. Call 1-800-600-1645 for details.
Attention taxpayers! If you've received a notice from the IRS or state, do not ignore it. It's also a big mistake to try and handle your tax problem on your own. If you owe back taxes, it's a fact that the government has the power to take everything you own, including your home, business, wages, savings, and your freedom. But here's the good news. There's a special toll-free tax hotline set up especially for you. This tax hotline will tell you about new programs that are geared to help you dramatically settle, reduce, or eliminate what you owe. But you have to call now. Take down this number or put it in your cell phone. But call 866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. When you call, you get free information on how you can reduce or eliminate back taxes, including penalties and interest. You can also be helped if you have unfiled returns, a tax lien, wage garnishment, bank levy, or if you have been entered into a payment plan but can't make the payments. Don't make the big mistake in thinking you can ignore or handle your tax problem on your own. You can stop the collection process immediately. Call this special tax hotline today for free info at 1-866-761-0959. That's 1-866-761-0959. 1-866-761-0959. We're
back, and you're listening to the Conservative Syndicate, Real Conservative Talk from Real Conservatives. I'm your host, John Matthews, along with Joe Hakos, who should be back before the week's over. We're projecting out here maybe Thursday tomorrow or maybe Friday, certainly by next week. He seems to be up and around, moving around, had a really bad viral infection in his lungs, and it's knocked him out for the last couple of weeks. But he's a fighter. He was actually back on the show Monday for about a half an hour and could handle it for that long. So continue prayers for Joe and his family, and he'll be back either at the end of this week or at the beginning of next. We have with us right now Donald Dix from Act for America, and we're talking about the Obama legacy. And the reason I've been harping on this is because the legacy of Barack Obama is what the left is going to have to use to pad the way or pave the way for whoever their nominee ends up to be come June, July of this year. I'm not sold on the idea it's going to be Hillary Clinton at this point, but whoever it is, they're going to need some help. And it's not about job effectiveness. It's not about governing ability or leadership ability. It's about popularity. And even though Barack Obama carries very low job approval ratings, and polls like the NBC Wall Street Journal say that 73% of the country think that he took it in the wrong direction, he still is favorable. He has a high popularity, kind of like Bill Clinton, a crook and a womanizer, but people like him. You want to party down with Bill Clinton. I understand he's quite the partier, so he's a good guy to hang around with. Same with Barack Obama. He makes his own beer, for crying out loud. So now I'm talking with Don about this, and you made a comment, Don, about the fact that most of these accomplishments involve the global community. And I was talking about this in the first hour. First of all, this White House summit on countering violent extremism under the heading of winning the fight against violent extremists. The title makes you think that you're talking about, of course, the Middle East situation, ISIS and all those type of people over there. But this summit was actually brought together after the Ferguson shootings, and the idea was to bring civil authorities together along with the international community to try to collectively figure out what to do about violent extremism. Now, I'm sure a lot of that probably sounded very much like a Marxist convention. The collective needs to gather all of our resources and back each other up and everything else. But I think it's important to note that our people are being involved in what the international community is doing at the civil level, the civil servant level, whether it be federal or state. Now, my contention was in the first hour is that when Barack Obama leaves office come 2017, he's going to do one of two things. This guy's not going away. I understand he wants to stay in D.C., which means he'll either get into lobbying or he'll go back to being just a straight-laced community organizer. But I think he's really
setting up a resume to run the UN. I think that's his ultimate goal, is to run the UN and do community organizing at a global level. What do you think?
I think that could be a very interesting career path. I mean, interesting, not good. But
right.
Yeah, I think that there's definitely a pathway that if he chooses to continue his, effort in community organizing. Remember Ray Rafke and Acorn?
Yes, I do. Uh-huh.
So when Acorn was hit by James O'Keefe and his organization Veritas, I don't know if he had Veritas at the time, but it's all morphed into this new organization of his. Radke dropped out of sight.
Mm-hmm.
And what he's been doing since then is essentially taking Acorn globally.
Right.
So they have gone from organizing these disparate groups on the ground in the United States. When Acorn got hit with that and had to file for bankruptcy and basically dissolve their organizations, and of course Barack Obama was in-house counsel for Acorn,
right.
and was very involved in that organization. I think he or Michelle may have been on the board. I can't remember which. But this is a very nepotistic enterprise. All of these different organizations are essentially, the strings are being pulled from the same individuals. So Wade Rafke goes out and he starts international organizing, taking that whole union mindset and that organizing concept, and he took it national. So you may be onto something here because, Wade Rafke and Barack Obama, although, there's not a whole lot in the media, you can't, search and get those guys connected, but they're cut from the same cloth. It's all the rules for radicals, organizing the people, turning over, the enterprises of production to the people. That's the Marxist socialist agenda. So you may be onto something there because I had never connected those dots, but when you were talking about it, I recollected that, that's where he disappeared to, and he's still very much active. You can go out and Google him and see that they're now going into these other countries, taking that Acorn model, even using the name Acorn into some of these other countries. So, there could be a sort of a bottom-up, top-down effort if Barack Obama does follow that pathway into the UN or into some kind of UN-related effort. There's a future there for them. And, of course, there's no love lost between the Clintons, but the Clinton Global Initiative essentially is a financial warehouse that's there for the picking for this kind of thing. And I could see Barack Obama setting up a very similar kind of foundation, using his strings to go around the world, gathering money up and using it for a very similar sort of effort.
Yeah, I think for me the telling piece, I've been floating this idea off and on now for at least a couple of years. The idea, I think his whole Middle East foreign policy is set up on appeasing the UN rather than protecting the United States. But I'll tell you what really kind of cemented this idea in my head was the election of Benjamin Netanyahu. The opposition to Netanyahu was run by none other than Jim Messina, Barack Obama's former campaign manager. He led the campaign against Netanyahu. And
right, and I pronounce it Benjamin Netanyahu. I'm not sure which is the right way, but I know that's the way it's pronounced in the media. But you're right. The campaign infrastructure, remember, Obama's campaign morphed into Organizing for America. I'm on their email list, and I get like 2 or 3 emails a day. And
I do too.
They're all pushing Obama's agenda into the grassroots. So, every email I get is promoting, Barack Obama's political agenda back into that effort. And you're right. Out of the Barack Obama campaign infrastructure came the individuals that were part and parcel of his campaign here that went over and attempted to lead the opposition campaign to for the prime minister election in Israel, which Benjamin Netanyahu won, which, by the way, the polls leading up to the election said that Bibi was going to lose, and lo and behold, he won. So, I'm not sure if the polls were a tool that they were trying to manipulate in order to, get people to stay away from going to the election or what. But no, you're absolutely right. Obama's campaign structure went into Israel. So if they went into Israel, they can certainly go into any other country to influence that election process.
Yeah. It just fits to me. The foreign policy in the Middle East is to cater, pander, and appease Islamic radicals. And in Israel, is to, smile at them while they're putting a knife in their back. And I just think that this is it. This is why I fall into that belief camp that Barack Obama is much more influenced by his Islamic beliefs than he is his Christian beliefs. And I've always referred to him as kind of he's a commie chameleon. He's whatever he needs to be whenever he needs to be it. He can change the color of his skin one way or the other. He can be black when he wants to. He can be white when he wants to. He can be Christian when he wants to. He can be Muslim when he wants to. And it's all for the ultimate goal of community organizing. Lie until you get what you want, because that's really the essence of Alinsky-style tactics. So I'm almost. I can't see this guy going anywhere else. How many more books can he write? There's no big deal in there. There's no influence in there. There's nothing to soothe his low self-esteem. He's out there trying to
remember, at the core of his belief system is black liberation theology, 20 years in Reverend Wright's church. And all of that is connected to a basis in Marxist theology.
Right, exactly. We got to go to a break. When we come back, I want to talk with Don here about the Oregon standoff up there, because this plays into the issues we're talking about now. It plays into the gun control narrative that's out there right now. There's a lot of things, but most of all, it really plays into a constitutional issue that I feel is the crux of everything wrong with America, and that is the federal government's ability to just do whatever they want, walk into any state and do anything they want with little or no opposition. Stay with us. We'll be right back in just a moment.
You can catch all our archives at theconservativesyndicate.net. The Conservative Syndicate. Real conservative talk from real conservatives.
Term life insurance. It can be a powerful way to protect your assets and your family. You work hard to earn and save your money to build a nest egg for the future. Don't let it get wiped out because you didn't plan ahead. Take the time now and make a small investment in $500,000 or more in quality term life insurance. Call the Term Lifeline and let us shop the best companies to give you the lowest rates. We specialize in policies of $500,000 and above. Ask about some of our 10 and 20-year fixed rate plans with guaranteed rates. Call the Term Lifeline right now for your free insurance quote. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609. You owe it to yourself to protect your family and your assets. Make term life insurance part of that plan. Call the Term Lifeline right now. 800-870-3609. 800-870-3609.
Hey folks, if you're like me, you don't place a whole lot of trust in today's media for the real truth and facts regarding the volatile world of finance and politics. When I want the real scoop on money, I go to the most trusted source I know, my good friend and colleague, Bob Cardoso. Bob is a noted expert with a PhD in international finance who airs his nationally known, globally syndicated show, Robert Cardoso Live, daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. With Bob, you'll get the right information at the right time from someone who knows his business and can help you make the right decision concerning yours. Again, Bob airs daily, Monday through Friday from 4 to 6 p.m. Pacific Time. Visit his website at robertcardosolive.com for information regarding stations and topics. That's robertcardosolive.com. Check Bob out. You'll be glad you did. And we're back, and you are listening to the Conservative Syndicate, real conservative talk from real conservatives. Again, I want to remind everybody you can go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, pick up this archive or any of our archives, any of our shows, find out all you want to know about our panel, or all you need to know. You're not going to find out all you want to know. I'm not going to tell you my underwear size, but you can find out all you need to know. Just go to our website, theconservativesyndicate.net. We've got Don Dix from Act for America with us, and I want to shift the conversation here to what's going on up there in Oregon. There's a couple of really
interesting aspects of this time. Of course, one is that the protest that's going on out there right now is being led by Ammon Bundy, the son of Clive Bundy, who you remember last year, I believe it was. They had the standoff with the feds out there on his cattle ranch out in Nevada. Now he's up in Oregon. And I guess I just want to ask you a question first, Don, and I'll let you kind of lead the commentary here. Ammon apparently wants the government to give him his land and quit asking for fees. Now, I think he's got a snowflake's chance in hell of the government ever conceding anything. But how do you think this is going to play out?
Well, that's what I keep asking people who are studying this a lot closer than I am. Is this thing going to have legs? Is this going to wrap up soon? At the center of of what's going on in Oregon, when you peel back all the layers, at the base of this are the ranchers and people like Bundy and Hammond who have been carving out their business lives, if you will, as ranchers, as people that live off the land, cattle herding, growing large crops like this. So at the center of this is the struggle of the ranchers and the federal government. The Bureau of Land Management for decades has been using things like the Endangered Species List, the Wildlife Refuge Act that was started by Teddy Roosevelt, to grab back the land and put it under federal control. So everything that you're seeing in Oregon has that as its origin, ultimately. The problem that the Hammonds are dealing with is that they're one of the last ranches in this area. A lot of the ranchers have already given up their land to the wildlife refuge in that area. The Hammonds are one of the last families. They've been in a decade-long struggle with the Bureau of Land Management. And it all came to a flashpoint, if you will, when they used this backfire that was lit back in 2000 by the Hammonds to control growth. They said that it was used to cover up illegal poaching. They're using a lot of other things. The Hammonds may not be your picture perfect, your idyllic idea of a family. They may have issues, but what's happened is they have been they're getting squeezed out by this effort by the Bureau of Land Management to reclaim all this land back into the control of the federal government, which ultimately has its roots in this idea that came out of the UN, which is, anything that we're doing to the land is bad. We got to remove human interference with the land. So this entire wildlife corridors mapping has been structured and overlaid. And so what the federal government is being used by these eco-terrorists and eco-Marxists to take the land back from human control and put it back to where their idea of unicorns and utopia back into its what they feel is its natural stance. But the nexus between what we were talking about before about violent extremism starts back in the Department of Homeland Security under the control of Janet Napolitano. They came out right away with this, first of all, stripping out of our national security agencies any connection between Islamic terrorism and violent extremism. So every reference, for instance, out of the 9/11 report and other reports that came out of that, they've slowly but surely stripped out every reference to Islam, jihad, Islamic terrorism, Islamic theology from this notion of terrorism. And now it's all being bundled under this notion of violent extremism, which is the Countering Violent Extremism effort. Mm-hmm. Back in 2009, they came out with this report on right-wing extremism, the current economic political climate, fueling the resurgence of radicalization and recruitment, and couching it under this right-wing extremism. So the connection there between that and what's gone on in Oregon is that what the Hammonds were tried under is the 1996 Anti-Terrorism and Effective Death Penalty Act, which came out of the 1995 bombing of the Oklahoma government center. So they created this law, and it was an effort to put some more teeth into the ability to prosecute for terrorism related efforts. But this is what the Hammonds were prosecuted under. They originally, the minimum sentence is a 5-year sentence. The judge in that case back in 2010 refused to give them the mandatory minimum sentence, gave them these minimum sentences, 4 months for the father, a year for the son. And then in 2011, I think, the Obama administration replaced the U.S. prosecutor in Oregon with an Obama appointee who, by the way, has a very interesting history. She came out of the hippie movement. She grew up in communes. Her parents dragged her to Grateful Dead concerts. She is your quintessential hippie turned bureaucrat. Uh-huh. And so she's the one that reinstated, that did an appeal with the court system to have the sentence reinstated. And now she's no longer the U.S. prosecutor there. So there's a nexus between what's going on in Oregon, what the Bundys are fighting essentially. You've got this right-wing extremism. So at the core of this is the effort by the administration to paint the Bundys and the Hammonds and all of these people who are trying to defend their right to live off the land, to manage to keep their ranches, for Pete's sake. So they're getting squeezed out, but they're being prosecuted under anti-terrorism statutes. They're being painted as terrorists. If you look at the way the left, I mean, the poster child for this is Montel Williams, who tweeted when the Bundys, took over this refuge center. He tweeted out, "Send in the National Guard and kill those terrorists."
Right.
And so he's the poster child for the way the left is reacting to essentially what are God-fearing. They live under the Constitution. They honor the Constitution. Their right to carry arms is guaranteed by the Constitution, and yet they're being vilified by the left and the media as being terrorists. So there's a nexus between all this stuff.
Yeah, and I was following the interview the other night with Ammon Bundy and Megyn Kelly, and she tried to school Ammon Bundy on this. This is wrong. Being the typical political operative that she's become. And Bundy basically just countered and said, what you've got here is a situation where there was already a sentence passed. The sentence has been changed into the original one, a mandated sentence. And he said, what you've got is you've got the federal government as the plaintiff, you've got the federal government as the judge, and you've got the federal government as the executioner. And right. So so there's double jeopardy here, and you're changing the sentence after a sentence was already passed. All these things come down to this aspect that the government is coming in and trying. I agree completely with what you're saying, because I see the same thing. The idea that what we're concerned about, or what Obama's concerned about, you tie in now the perfect timing, this gun control stuff that he's coming out with, perfect timing with what's going on up there. And the idea being is that what we need to do is we need to paint more Americans as domestic terrorists and quit worrying about the foreign terrorists, so that we can begin to even do more in terms of gun control. And so it's all about gun control, everything underneath this. Now, I want to offer one other thing here before I let you close out. The thing with the Clive Bundy Ranch that nobody paid attention to was the fact that the government, this land that the government was so intent on saving, what was it, a field mouse or a tortoise or something. There was something out there they were trying to save. But Harry Reid had dealings going on with a Chinese oil refinery that wanted to build a refinery on this land, and very little was ever mentioned about that. So there's different aspects of this. I'm wondering what kind of natural resources are on this land up in Oregon that the federal government would be so concerned about retaining ownership of it. That's how I'm looking at these things. So there's a lot more to this. I know we're out of time right now, but you covered it very well, hit on it very well, and we're going to continue to talk about this. But I wanted to give you an opportunity to push Act for America and your radio show.
Oh, well, thank you. Just in summing up that conversation, yes, I am reading articles now that are suggesting that there are uranium deposits that have been found. There's gold on this land, that there are other natural resources. And, who knows? There's the trouble with this is there are so many levels of this that need to be unpacked that the listeners out there and the citizens that are trying to see what's going on, their eyes glaze over. So, you got to be patient. You got to read into the history of this stuff. Mm-hmm. And remember, all of this is incrementalism. This gun thing that Obama's doing right now, it's just another step. It's another step. It's not going to stop here. It's going to keep going, because the only way ultimately that Obama and the people that are like him can diminish America is they've started with the family 5 decades ago. They've broken up the family. They've broken out religion. Everything that made America strong, that family nuclear unit is being decimated at the building blocks, and they're going after it. The last thing that prevents them from completing their plan in America is the fact that we're armed. They cannot do their shtick if we're armed. And so it's the perfect way to finish up that conversation. Thank you. ActForAmerica.org is the website that folks can go to learn more about the work that Act for America is doing. You can click on the Get Involved link at the top. There's ways you can connect with local chapters. You can learn about the legislative priorities. And ultimately, whether it's Act for America or your local political effort, this is the time to get off the couch, get on the field, strap on the uniform, and start getting involved. Otherwise, the America that your children inherit and your grandchildren inherit is going to look nothing like it even looks today.
Yeah, I agree. We got to sign off, folks, and we'll be back tomorrow, same time, 3 o'clock out here on the West Coast and 6 o'clock on the East Coast. And we'll continue to do what we do here in the show, and that is to educate, inform, and engage our audience. God bless you. Don't forget to visit our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, and we'll be talking to you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in to this edition of The Conservative Syndicate, the globally syndicated, politically incorrect talk show that seeks to tear down the imaginary wall of separation between church and state. We want to make you aware you can find and access all of our show archives at our website, theconservativesyndicate.net, as well as our broadcast stations and times. That's the conservativesyndicate.net. We so appreciate you taking time to tune in, and we so look forward to continuing to bring you the best and uncompromised talk radio available on the net today. And remember, folks, it doesn't matter how many times you get knocked down in life. It only matters how many times you get up. I'm John Matthews, signing off until next time, right here on the Conservative Syndicate. God bless you, and may God continue to bless America.